Dela's Voice has been made possible by the generosity of sponsors like you. Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show is brought to you by Tracy Markley. Applied knowledge is power. What makes live shows so special is that interaction between the viewer and the host and the guest, whether it's through the chat or the live phone calls. This connection is created because people are allowed to share their experiences, their feelings, their thoughts, and this makes for a beautiful dynamic of energy that's connecting people in so many different ways. And that's how we learn. That's the best way we can help one another, is by connecting at such deep levels. This is Dela Futui, the host of Dela's Voice, hoping to spark your soul. Hello, and welcome to another Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show on this beautiful, warm Sunday in July, all the way from just north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. It is absolutely an honor to be with you here today and bring you another story of a fantastic individual who is changing lives, impacting others, and bringing change for wellness and recovery. This is our purpose on this show, and I am blessed to have the connection to incredible human beings around the world that are willing to share their stories. I want to welcome you, the viewer of Dela's Voice, on this show. I hope that you are having a beautiful Sunday, and wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are healthy and happy and ready and willing to learn with me alongside others from another guest. Today, we're talking about recovery, and so many of us have had adversities. We all have them, right? So many of us get stuck in that victimhood mentality, and we live there for years. Many of us learn that not only survival is possible, but that also we can thrive and live through the adversity and become better and grow. Our guest today has had years of experience helping people recover. She has her own story. Here's a little bit about our guest. Survival, recovery, life. That is the topic of the show today. These are the steps Tracy Markley teaches her clients, many of whom are stroke survivors. Not a stranger to adversity herself, Tracy has learned to overcome challenges and has made it her purpose to help others do the same. Her motto, applied knowledge is power, is that, and that's her driving force, to learn and implement and inspire others. My favorite. Tracy L. Markley has been working and studying in the fitness industry since 1994. That's a long time. That's a lot of experience. She's an award winning personal trainer. She's a writer. She is a published author. And she's also the founder of Tracy's Personal Training and Pilates. Tracy is the recipient of the 2021, um, I think it's IDEA or IDEA, World Personal Trainer of the Year. She's author of 10 books, and she's also the creator of 2 fitness CEC education courses. And she also holds several certifications, too many to mention, but they include fitness specialist and biomechanics specialist. You can say we're in for a treat today. We're going to learn so much. Get your notepads. So today we are going to meet Tracy and hear her tales, so many tales of those who she has helped recover, who have survived, and have grown through their journeys. Please share this talk with other people who may need to hear it. You just never know whose life you're going to change just by sharing this talk. I want to thank you for being here. I want to encourage you to leave us comments, questions, your experiences. The phone lines will be open during the next half of the second half of the show, and you can call in and speak to Tracy if you like. And just be with us, be present in the next hour, and let's see how we can come out on the other end better. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's you, and here's Tracy Markley. Hello.
Hi, Della. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have this talk with you. I just know it's going to be filled with wisdom and new learning. I just love that, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm
So,
excited.
oh, so tell us a little bit where you are right now, because your background has a lot of toys.
I am in Long Beach, California, and this is my studio. I rent like a 400 square foot space for my studio here. So I just moved back from Oregon, less than a year ago. And you see my Bosu balls and my ballet bars, and there's more stuff over here.
Awesome. This is where you help people.
I do a lot of people on Zoom more right now, though.
Oh, don't you just love that you have that capability of helping people all around the world?
Oh yeah, and if we couldn't do it via internet, especially the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
every business would have suffered. We all
Absolutely.
needed it, and we
Yeah.
couldn't do this.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
couldn't do this, and this is amazing. So let me tell you, Zoom has literally has opened up my world, Tracy. Because if it weren't for this, honestly, and if it weren't for that's bad, COVID happening, I would not have discovered this platform. I wouldn't be talking to you for sure, um, because my world was really small. How have you found yourself growing through this past couple of years and a bit?
Well, like many of us, we had to learn Zoom quickly. In my business, the fitness industry was just shut down completely, and and plus I didn't really. I trained my clients. I have my own studio. It's small, a little bigger than this, but about this size. Um, when COVID hit, the very beginning, we're like, nobody knew what it was. It was all confusing. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I had a lot of seniors, a lot of stroke survivors. Nobody knew what to be safe. And I personally knew putting, my clients in a mask, especially those who have hearing loss like me, in a mask and trying to train them would be unsafe for not just the COVID reasons, but hearing each other, communicating. So those who could do it, we switched to Zoom. And, of course, if it wasn't for this kind of connecting internet, I would have lost. What would we do? Plus, I train a girl who's in DC. She joins our group training. She's a stroke survivor. I've trained someone in Canada, someone in Texas and Colorado, I believe. I wouldn't have met them
Yeah.
if it wasn't for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. You mentioned you have loss of hearing.
Yeah.
So,
Severe.
yeah, severe, severe. I mean, first of all, I'm just blown away by by what you do, how you do it, and I mean, uh, I want to know a little bit about that if you're open to sharing your experience with hearing loss.
One, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But what I'll tell that story in a second. But what happened just recently is Starkey, who makes hearing aids, they also made my last pair of hearing aids. They liked my social media and it asked me to be an ambassador.
Woo!
So they just fitted me with like these top of the line brand new hearing aids Monday.
So they fit right into your ear.
They fit in the ear, which I had those before, but these are like, I always had like medium type ones. These are like up at the top Vance that has like um their AI, which is artificial intelligence. They're supposed to do about 55,000 automatic adjustments all day long, like normal people's ears do. So I'm hearing better and I'm still adjusting to it because sometimes like when I switch hearing aids or they up the volume, you're kind of dizzy a little bit. I didn't get that dizzy this time, but there's an adjustment. But yeah, when I was younger, I didn't realize I had a hearing loss. And I think I was in third grade when you're learning to read more, and the teachers would, we have these yellow long pieces of paper. She'd read a paragraph, we'd answer questions, and I would be like, "Wow, what she said." So the teacher said, so I had to go to, I called it dummy reading, get a little tutor, and I always had a hard time with the English to reading part. And she just said, "Oh, honey, it's because your parents are divorced." She said she was saying that was like my way of coping with stress or whatever from it. And so it wasn't until I was in my probably 30s that I realized it was not because of that. So when I was in college, when you get to college, most classrooms you can sit where you want. So I kind of sat to the front, to the left a little bit, and I got, I had a 3.6 average. I can comprehend things, and I thought, okay, I don't know why, I'm just quirky, but I can do better in classrooms if I'm in this position. So I didn't relate it to that. I started to realize I didn't hear real good in my left ear, but I didn't think much about it. I just tell people, "Oh, it's over there. I don't hear well." So I finally got my ears checked later on, and like this one's, wait, my left ear. It's different on the camera here. This side, my left ear
Yeah, I
is.
noticed.
They're both severe, but the left ear is really bad. Like I could not hear very well out of it all.
Mhm.
So I got the hearing aids and it helped a lot. And then each time I get it, because they advance so much in technology, you get better. But it's been hard because I notice I speak clearer when I have the hearing aids on. And then I did some studies when I got a few years back and about growing up, about being a kid with hearing loss in school. And as any of us with hearing loss, it affects how you write. It affects every way you communicate. So it if you how do I put it, like say like you can make real long sentence to say something, but lots of times you have hearing aids, we shorten our sentences for comprehension. There's a
Mm.
whole study with it, and I was intrigued with it, and then I thought, oh, that's exactly how I was as a kid. But
Yeah.
they were confused when my hearing loss came from. Part of it got worse when I was older and I was really sick. I was bedridden for 2 years and like 2.5 years 32 rounds of antibiotics, and some of the antibiotics of hearing loss
Wow.
for side effects. So I got hit with both.
Yeah. And
So
isn't that funny that your teacher said what she said to you? I
yeah,
mean, how many times do we hear people making statements like this that have absolutely no fact or no truth behind them, but they say it? And how does that affect a kid? To
yeah,
honestly, so you've had to live with this. your for your entire life. And what would you say has been the biggest lessons that have come out of this disability for you?
Um, lessons. Well, I've learned a lot of people don't understand it, and then having to learn not to take it personally, even though it is personal. I don't know if I call it a lesson or a lot. It's just getting through it. And when you sometimes I'll sit, people like, oh yeah, you don't hear well, so they literally kind of turn their back and talk to someone like, oh, sorry, you're irrelevant. That's what's
Oh,
hard, and a
yeah.
lot of hearing loss people get that.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
you don't want to go somewhere. It's like, oh, that one person talks so loud and interrupts all the time. I can't deal. So you don't go because because sometimes like say like you're talking to me, I may respond like maybe a few seconds or microseconds slower than somebody else's. A lot of times the hearing loss, our hearings, we're still processing the words a little slower than somebody else. And you get you it feels like people interrupt you a lot. You don't get to finish your words because there's a lot to it. So if I had to call it a lesson, I might just be learning to deal with it and not be hard on myself and
Mm.
not think
Mhm.
I'm less than. Because a lot of times people look at people who, life's not all perfect and they think, oh, they must have attracted it to themselves, or what did they put out in the universe to bring that back? Or they make it look like you're going through what you're going through because you must have made it come to you, or, that kind of thinking.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
you know, that doesn't, I mean, that might go to some parts in life, but not everything. Not like this.
I think the way I look at something like this is, and I've learned this through my own life, is that not to say how and why did it happen to me, but what am I supposed to learn from this, and how am I supposed to use this lesson to help other people? And I think I look at you, Tracy, and feel like because of this, this you have become a more compassionate person, and that's why you're able to do the things you do for other people.
Yeah, I can relate to people with things, but I don't think I go into it thinking, okay, how can I help someone from this? I think my thinking is get through it, but I know every time I go through something, I know someone's gonna be brought to me I can help.
Mm,
But I don't look at it, I don't ask myself that question. I just know. Like
yeah.
sometimes if I learned something more about because there's like certain strokes people have. And when I work with stroke survivors, but then, they always say these are the three main ones, the four main ones. But there's sometimes people come in, they'll names. I'm like, I never heard of that stroke. I thought, watch, I'm going to meet someone like a month now who I just learned from that client to do that. And that always happens, but I don't purposely look for it. It just kind of always falls in that way,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Um, how did you get actually to do this? Like what you do today is helping people recover from strokes mainly, right? If I'm
I do a lot of fall prevention too, seniors fall prevention. I can work with all different ages and sport people and stuff, but that's seemed to have been the attraction the last several years. It's just because I think the education and how I put it into experience and the experience that came to me not looking for it just created itself. I didn't purposely plan it.
Mhm. And so you help stroke survivors. I've spoken to a lot of stroke survivors on this show, and it's incredible how some individuals can. I mean, it's like miracle stories, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
Tracy. Coming from a coma, not forgetting how to walk and talk,
Yeah.
and they come out all right, and some of them have. Uh, Risen to levels that would have not been possible for them,
Yeah.
or it's just incredible how people can, recover and thrive. And so, I'm sure you have a lot of stories, about people who you have helped, and I know, that, um, you have helped a gentleman tell his story by you wrote that book for
Hmm.
him, like you wrote his story. And so if you don't mind, do you mind sharing some of those wonderful tales of people, who have made miraculously amazing recoveries?
He Gary, at my first book, when I met him, his sister called me and she said, my brother had a stroke. I want him to come to the gym. I was living in a small town in Oregon. I was there for like 8 years, and I was there. It was the only big gym in town, and then I branched off on my own. But she called me there, and when I was finishing with a client, everything about him was just special. So I was finished with a client, and approaching was a man in a walker, and he had his sister. He had people with him. Sorry, did you hear the siren? A big siren
Yes,
just went by.
that's
Okay.
okay. Mhm.
It was big. Anyway,
Thank God we have that.
yeah, to help people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have it. When I moved back to Long Beach, they actually have an ambulance. It's actually called a stroke unit. So when people have stroke, they actually, if they know they're having stroke, they actually specifically send the stroke unit out. And when I saw it the first 2 times, I cried. Like, oh my God, that's so cool they have that. Because that means they can start doing stuff with them
Right
instantly
away.
before. Yeah. So
You're
I just
so
like,
right. It's so
so
important
cool.
to have that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So
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 Gary,
Gary was approaching me, and I thought that must be my next client to meet me because he's in a walker, and he had 3 people with him. So when I started talking with, and they were giggling, and I thought, oh my God, they're laughing. How cool is that? So it was Gary, his sister Cheryl, which we're still friends, his neighbor, and his sister's husband, Jeffrey. Anyway, so I meet them. We're standing there talking, and one thing, my first, and the thing, this is the weird. He was the first stroke survivor so raw. I usually got them. Oh, I had a stroke 2 years ago. I've never got one still in a walker
mhm.
before. They were
So he
already
had
done that
just had
therapy.
he had just had his stroke.
Well, 6 months ago, he's got out of the hospital. Did
Mhm.
some did I think he got out of the hospital 5 months. Did some going to the therapy, at the therapy office, and then he came to me. So I mean, he literally had so much work to do from not moving, not walking, and he was an artist. Anyway, so when I met him, when they're approaching me, my first instinct said, oh my God, can I do this? And then it went, yes, you can. And then something said, you're gonna know, you need to know this person more than just training them. There's more of a purpose to your guys' story. And it was, you have to listen to your gut. But sometimes you just get this gut that tells you something. You're like, okay. So we're standing there talking, and this lady we're next to one of the machines. It's like a sit down elliptical type machine. A lot of people with heart issues do that after heart surgery. Anyway, so she's wearing all white. She has white hair. She gets up. I have to say that because it's kind of, she seemed like an angel. She gets up and she puts her hand on him and says, you're going to get through this. I did. Look at me. I had a stroke so many years ago. And it gave us chills. It felt like she was an angel sent there. So the whole moment was, I think, the most special, memorable moment of meeting a new client. And then his journey just kind of kept that way as we're training. He wanted to be there. He wanted to listen. So it's just like when you get someone who wants to lose weight, you get the ones that are just truly there, they're working out. You have the ones that go, oh, I don't feel like exercising. Oh, I ate bad over the weekend, and they never really get their goals. He was like, I'm here, I'm going to do this. And you don't always get that with people,
Mhm.
in all cases, whatever they're coming there for. So he just kept making progress, but he would, after we're together for a few months or so, he'd say, we need to share my story. We need to, or he would just stop in the middle of workout and go, stuff other people don't know, don't you? Or you go, wait, I got to tell you something. But one of the things he would always say is, I want my journey shared. So one day he stopped, and it's like this, like the fourth time he's done this. He goes, don't ever have a stroke. They suck. I go, okay, we need to write a book called Dear Stroke, You Suck. So right when I was getting ready to publish the book, we had a conversation about his art, because it took him a long time to learn, a couple years before he learned to paint again. And in the art community, he was pretty well known. So he said when he wants to write, like maybe he wants to paint a thin, long black line. He can only make it short and thick. So he had to change the way he did his artwork. So right then I went, oh, The Stroke of an Artist. And I switched the name of the book. And then when COVID came, I woke up one morning and I thought, let's bring that book back out to the original name. So everything's the same. I just made larger print and made the illustrations a little bigger and changed the title just
Mhm.
because the other one was kind of shown up as an art book and my gut said to do it sizeless. So now they're both online. But he was just special, but he was so, so, so in tune with everything. So I never really detailed explained spatial awareness and proprioception. I talked about it, but I didn't like teach it like a long thing, like a long drawn out. So one day we're at the gym and he's like, because there's a window in front of him, he goes, I know there's cars driving in that street. I know there's people working out over here, but I don't feel them around me, which you just explained spatial awareness. He doesn't connect to his spatial awareness in his space. Oh my God, this man's so in tune. So a few months later, he's standing on the balance disc doing something. He goes, I got to tell you, he always does, I got to tell you something. I got to tell you something. I'm not trying to be rude. I got to stop. So he got off this balance disc and he goes, it's like my world used to be here and now it's here. And I went, oh my God, he just got his spatial awareness back right in front of me when I'm here. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we had a lot of moments like that. At one time he was doing, down the line, the Bosu ball flipped over to where he was doing a plank with his hands holding the Bosu ball and kind of rocking. And he goes, the feeling just came back in my hand. I'm like, I didn't know you were missing feeling in your hand. I mean, I know he can grip and do stuff, but
Yeah.
he had a lot of numb spots. I knew that, but he knew he was touching the Bosu ball, but he never felt himself touching the Bosu ball. He never
Yes.
told me that. So we
Yes.
got up and went to the front and I gave him a cold water and he goes, I can feel the coldness now. So he couldn't feel cold or heat or what he was touching. The sense of touch was gone. And he got it back right in front of me. I mean, it's just like he was sent there from angels or God or something because I learned through him too. And that
Mm.
just carried off the other. And he got to the point in the gym where he'd walk up to other people. He knew who was a stroke survivor. And he'd go, I just want you to know you're going to get through this. Look
Oh,
at me. I was a mess.
oh,
So
like that lady with the white hair and all white.
exactly. He
Yeah.
became his version of her. So
Yeah.
it's just a neat story. And we worked together for about 3 years. Then all of a sudden one day and this is sad. I may not cry today. It's been a while. He passed away. He had to get a heart valve redone. He just called up and said, I'm not going to make it to class. I go, why? He goes, oh, I'm in the hospital. I'm like, why? He goes, well, I wasn't breathing well last night. So seemed to be something that most people can get through, but I think they messed up and he got an infection. And then he passed and it was very hard. I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
so he was training with me in my group. So he did private training. Then he would do Pilates, mat Pilates, and he could barely get to the floor in the beginning. Then people, months later or a year later, no one even knew he had a stroke. But he always sat right by me, so I can instruct him. Nobody would sit in a spot. So when he passed, it affected everyone who saw him all the time. People at the gym were sad because they walk in and see him every day,
He
smiling,
touched
and
so many lives,
it's so many lives. And he
right?
still is with his story. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's amazing how things work out. Um, because I feel like there's always a reason.
yeah,
Look, look, it's just it must bring you so much satisfaction and love knowing that you touched Gary's life. Um, First of all, with your help and your encouragement, and showing him what was possible to live whatever time he had fully and be able to touch other people's lives. I mean, we just don't know the ripple effect of
yeah.
something like this. So, two things you said that I want to go back to. One was spatial awareness, and I think it's really important to talk about this. It's a new concept for me, so I would love to hear your explanation because we think of stroke and think, okay, so the person can't walk, the person can't talk, they lose a lot of their daily function. Uh, but spatial awareness, how important is that in a person's life to be
Oh, it's
aware?
huge. So we all have it. And so there's spatial awareness and proprioception. A lot of people say it's kind of the same, but spatial awareness is being aware to where things are in your being is in space and knowing, what's in your space and movement and everything. And proprioception, they kind of teach like where your limbs are in space. But to me, it's kind of all grouped together. It's basically knowing where your body is in space. So and knowing what's around you. So like right now, like for you, you have plaques on your wall behind you, the chair is there. And when you get up or sit down, not thinking, you know not to run into the wall, and you know where the chair is. But when you see seniors or older people, or people maybe had a stroke, or maybe they have MS, or maybe somewhere there's something's affecting them, they have to slow down to walk to a chair, and they have to kind of put their arms out, and they kind of shuffle and turn around and lower themselves down. That's one example of spatial awareness, because we just walk into a room, our brain subconsciously slows our feet down when it needs to, turns our body around, and we have control lowering ourselves down to the height of the chair. We don't just plop, we have control. Well, spatial awareness is part of that, and that's an example of it. Another example of it is, and this is where I have become, I don't want to say really good at it. I am kind of good at it, but specializing really well with seniors
Just pat
and fall
yourself on the
prevention.
back and say, I rock this. I rock this.
So I was getting, so basically when you walk and you take your steps, you may see a book or something on the floor and you step over it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you lose your spatial awareness, you lose the ability to subconsciously know how high to pick up your foot, how far to put it, and where to drop it without tripping or, having your toes hit it, and keeping your balance at the same time. That's fall prevention. I mean, that's, basically what I fix when I do fall prevention. So when it comes to spatial awareness, also, you have, like, I was getting seniors calling me and saying, or even not even super, like seniors, like elderly, 80, 90, frail people, not all of them are frail. People in their 50s or 40s or 60s, whatever, saying, because I was in Oregon at the time, when I'm hiking on the path, where you guys have all these great rainforest paths where you are too.
Yes.
I miss that. They start tripping on the tree roots. There's these tree roots across the trails. They're not clearing them. So walking there, so I do this special stuff with them that in most cases it fixes it. It's almost like, okay, so like when a baby learns to walk, it just doesn't get up and stand and start walking.
Mm-hmm.
It develops and develops and gets to the point it can hold onto a table. It doesn't start rotating a movement like we do walking until it gets the stability up. Then you get the motion. So I kind of go in a way retraining back there. It's not super hard. You go back to the basics. It's not all this crazy stuff, all this fancy equipment everywhere. It's just rebuilding your balancing system. And so, like, for instance, I'll stand someone on a BOSU ball, on a ballet bar. They hold on, or balance. It depends if they need to hold or not. But just standing on the BOSU ball with the bubble up, not with the platform, the dome side up. You're moving. It's your unstable surface. Your brain's constantly adjusting, adjust, and it's communicating with your feet and toes. Okay, your feet are doing this, so it knows not to roll out or you'll fall off. So you're rebuilding the communication from the brain to even to your little toe to help build that back up. And so that you have really deep spine muscles, and the brain sends messages to the spinal cord, but the brain sends a message to the center of the body first to stabilize your limbs are going to move. But it's so, minutely, seconds. You don't sit there and go, oh, there it is, it's programming, but it just happens. So a lot of people, that's why we want strong spine and core, because when your core is strong, the brain is sending messages, strong muscles to stabilize, then you can move. But a lot of people train, and I train from the inside out. They train from the outside in. So you're trying to get something to have stable legs for walking, and you're not getting their pelvic and hips and core in balance, it's not going to work. You have to get the tree trunk has to be strong in order for the branches to hold apples.
Yes.
And sustain wind. So spatial awareness comes to that, but it's more than just here. You have to rebuild from the center of the body out. So for instance, if somebody maybe anybody, shoulder going on, maybe recovering from frozen shoulder, stroke survivor, can't move their arm. If their shoulders and their posture and their core is like this, studies have shown, and I believe this, if you have poor posture, it can interfere with the communication from the brain to the center of the body. It kind of can slow it down, or give it a roadblock. I don't think we really see it. It's just deep internal. So if you get your posture back up and you're in line,
Yeah.
it can communicate better, and then you're also going to build the movement and alignment.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
posture and spine in the core, not just ab work, but core, real core, helps rebuild spatial awareness, proprioception, um, what we need. You have to have your spatial awareness, because you see older people start shoveling.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lift up their feet
Mm-hmm.
because that's their safety mechanism to move, because they know if they try moving big, they just start falling over. They don't have awareness.
And so you're saying this doesn't happen. This doesn't have to happen.
It doesn't have to happen, no.
Mm. I love
So,
this. I love can I just interject for a moment
mhm,
because you said something and I want to make sure I understand. The way I see it is our bodies are always healing themselves. So they are capable. Our bodies are capable of
mhm,
healing themselves. All those synapses you talked about, and they're constantly firing up. And but they need an environment where they can work properly. So
yes,
you help with that. And so um, and I think that's the difference between people who do recover well and who don't, is that they put in the effort. And it's hard, isn't it,
yeah,
to keep putting in that effort. So I can feel like this is something that's really tiring. And some days, I can only imagine how frustrating it could be for you wanting to take a step and not being able to, and
mhm.
having to try and try and try, and you know it's easy to give up, isn't it?
It is, and two things play in that too. One, some brains just won't heal. Depends on the injury. Some heal to a point, some heal all the way, but you don't always know unless you try. And then you're dealing with the neuro fatigue, the physical fatigue,
Mm,
your surroundings. Are you alone? Is your home environment supportive, caring? You're annoying them. So there's so many dynamics that play
yeah,
around it besides just being who you are. Just like people who haven't had a stroke, all of us, if we have a home environment that's not supportive, it makes the world harder.
yes.
So because with Gary, there was a few times he would come and he'd be it almost like he took a step back. Um, he'd be tired, he'd be weak, not super weak, like he'd fall down. Something was different. And I go, "What's going on at home?" And something had happened at home, like an argument with his wife or something. So we would go take a walk and work on walking outside instead of doing his normal workout, because it just wiped him out. It's too much.
Yeah.
And that's how all of us are when we go through stuff. But it depends what you're going through. If you're already going through a bunch of stuff and life kind of throws you, little annoyances of other people's behavior, or you don't feel loved, or someone's hurting you, or just bullying, or things that we go through in life in all different ages. It's just more on top of more that people are going through. And if you're in a, like a stroke survivor, or someone who has MS, or someone that has a physical part of them that's already hard enough, it's just like a double, triple whammy.
Mm, yeah. And that makes the role of a caregiver so important, right?
Yeah. And I
And
trained survivors that used to take taxis to me. They had no one to help them. And the
mhm,
taxi driver would be late. Then they come pick them up, and the taxi driver would pick them up 45 minutes late, and they feel bad. They have to wait there, and I'm not going to leave them. So some of them go through a lot. We don't always hear about their stories, but some of them go
um,
through things that are so, then, they see people who are making recovery, and they may wonder why they're not.
yeah.
Could be they don't have the right care. Could be their brain just has their injury in a certain spot, it won't recover. You don't always know. So you just keep trying and trying, and it takes, it's in stroke recovery. Well, that's any of us changing a habit. It's repetitive, 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 then it kicks in. That's a little different, but you have to repeat something a lot for things to kick in, and for the brain to repair, to make new pathways, or repair some things that happen with brain damage and stroke recovery. You have to do it repetitive, over, over, over. You can't just do, learned this hand exercise for my hand. Oh, I've been doing it for 2 weeks, it's not working.
Mhm.
For one survivor it may work first day they do it.
Yes.
Like with Gary, when I was working on his foot drop, we got it fixing quick. Another person who had foot drop and leg turn out because of a rare thing that happened to diabetes he had. he fixed pretty quick too. Not even trying. He just was doing the stuff and it went. But then I'll have other people that, they're not seeing any results. I don't know what they're doing at home. Is because they're sitting with their foot out all the time. I mean, there's so much to it. Like if your foot's falling out and you're keeping it in when you're with your trainer or with me or whoever you're working, but every time you're at home, you're sitting with your leg out. So you're in the position you don't want it to walk in. You're gonna train it there more than you're not out. So I just never know how much is them, how much is the brain, how much is it they do not drink enough water to feed the brain. You don't really know. So if you get someone that just does everything, that's the only way we can know. So when you get those clients that, I drank my water, I ate good, I did this, I did that. It's like, okay, good, good, good.
Yes, yes, and little steps, right?
Mhm.
Little tiny steps, and that's it. It all goes hand in hand. So, you worked with so many people, and I'm sure you have seen the ones that perhaps have given up along the way. And so, in your opinion, what is the main driver for someone who's going through something as serious as this, wanting to stay in the recovery journey?
I think one thing is seeing some kind of progress, seeing something that's going to keep rebuilding their hope. Because we all know, who, like, I've gone through a lot in my life. And sometimes, you're like, I really need to see something falling into place to keep the hope going. And it's not always their mindset on purpose. Sometimes this is their mindset because, you need something, life, God, angels, somebody in life. You need something to help keep feeding because we're not really made to just be alone all the time. We need more. We need positive. We need love. We need, something to show. My pinky is working a little bit after a year. If you're working on something for 6 months, you see no changes, and you're really doing everything you can, and it's like, it makes people want to give up. So it kind of depends on life, and we need people to fill us with hope. We need those little miracles sometimes, and I think sometimes it's just what it is. Some people don't see them. It could be they're not getting them. It could be they're not open to them. It could be, it's hard to say. But so what I see, um, it is your mindset to part of it, but is your physical healing going to be there? It's like when you see people struggle with cancer. You hear people say, "Oh, she was so positive through the whole thing. She beat her breast cancer." Well, I know people who are really positive and they didn't. You know what I mean? Not to put a negative thing there, but that's just a part of life. And I think keeping your hope going somehow, you need some hopeful thing to keep you going.
Hmm.
That's a big part. And then
Hmm.
at certain points, we have to accept that. Like I know it's way harder being a stroke survivor, right? Like with me, even though I got like the top of the line superhero hearing aids right now, I still will never hear like a normal person, the good hearing. And accepting that's hard because each time you get, it's like, oh, I'm going to be all good again. Oh, I still can't quite do that, but okay, but I'm hearing better. So it's accepting our new selves in a way too. Like when I work with the survivors or, anyone who have life changes, we always said we don't feel like ourselves. We don't feel like ourselves. And I personally think a lot of people after, well, still, but through COVID, a lot of us has changed. We've been through a lot. Going to work is different. What used to make us feel good from our work is different. A lot of things have shifted, and we had to find our peace and joy making new things. And we have to. And this is what I tell my stroke survivors. Um, you have to. You're gonna find peace in your new you. You won't be who you were. So when we look in the mirror, like when we get age too, we don't look the same anymore. There's so many things in life
No
that makes
kidding.
changes, and we want to feel what we felt back here. This is what used to make us find our peace. This
Hmm.
used to fill us with hope. Well, that's not doing it anymore.
Hmm.
We look
Yeah.
in the mirror, it's like we don't look like ourselves. Especially stroke survivors, they see a stranger. They
Yeah.
feel like a stranger in their own body. And I think during the COVID things, a lot of people had a sense of that, not knowing, just because life and changes and their work got pulled away, and that accepting our new selves, finding our new peace, find something else that brings us, that feels good. Because what did 6 months or what did 5 years ago may not do it anymore. So
Yeah.
that's a part of it. So
Oh,
finding
yeah.
your new acceptance somehow, and then still trying to build what you can. I mean, there's a lot to that question. Like, but, but I think when we start to feel, I don't like that word acceptance, but you find your own ground in yourself. It's like, okay, this is me. I have this, this is going on. Instead of, oh my God, why do I have never hear? Why can I never hear? It's like, okay, I don't hear. What do I do?
Mm.
And I know that's a harder struggle when you can't walk or you can't move your hand. So I
You're
know
very
Kate.
practical in your approach. I just love that. I love that practicality in your words. Um, and I think that's what makes you successful. You have the empathy, you have the compassion,
Mhm.
but you also have practical wisdom. And I think that's really, really important. You
And
offer a
sometimes just
balance.
common
Yes,
sense too.
absolutely. And yes, coming to terms, like this is me. This is me right now. You know, I'm not able to do what I did a year ago. Maybe I will never. But let me see how I can move from here. That's
And
really, really important.
and I also think not listening to the cliche sayings. There's so many, um, you can do it. That's just excuses. I mean, just these one-liner tags you see all over the internet supposed to inspire people. Well, when you're in a situation where you don't really have control of it, and you're trying to find some control, but you really can't change everything. You're trying to find you're like we are just saying, it's not about we're not inspired. It's not about we have excuses. Sometimes people actually has reasons and they're okay. But if they're feeling guilty, like, oh my God, I have all these excuses, and it's feeling like a negative heaviness on them, and that's not really their story. And I don't think people realize that's on them sometimes because there's so much of that out there. There's so much of just get it right, do this, do this. You can track all the money you want. And yeah, maybe in a sense that stuff works, but that's not always everyone's reality.
No, no,
And
right.
knowing the reality, doing what you need to do, and don't let these strong statements make you feel like you can't, you're a loser, you're weak. Because I just think that's unkind,
Mm.
you know?
It's and accepting them is unkind to ourselves.
Hmm.
In any situation. I want to come back to this because this is so important, but I want to, you know, it's been 50 minutes and I haven't even looked at the comments yet. And I'm so sorry about that. I know people have been commenting, but Tracy, I've been learning so much from you. So thank you so
Oh, thank
much.
you.
And it's a possibility that we may go over time just a little bit if you're okay with that.
I'm
Otherwise,
totally fine. Whatever you
okay.
need, I'm here.
All right. And I will open up the phone lines if in case someone will want to call in. And so let me just put that number up right now. You can call the show at 647-283-6571. If you are watching us on Facebook, you may also use a messenger to call us. And so many comments here, and I want to make sure that I can hear the phone when it rings. So let's see. I have Robert Brooker here, another stroke survivor. Robert says, I'm grateful that guilt was overserved as a teen. It lost its power over me." So guilt,
That's nice. Yeah.
guilt, right? In terms of what we're talking about, maybe keep that in mind so we can
Yeah.
come back to that. Paranek, she just bought us a super sticker on YouTube. Thank you so much. You're always shower us with your generosity. I thank you so much for your support. She also says it's very important to find the relationship between the brain cells and the muscles of the body, and success requires effort. The recap, amazing. Robert Booker on practical wisdom says it is probably the most valuable kind of wisdom.
Nice.
I agree. I agree. On the subject of COVID, he says that COVID separated him from his biological family. And so many people have had to deal with that, right? If you're already living amidst a difficult situation, and then COVID happened, and now you're totally separated and isolated, and that's tough. I can imagine. He also says self-acceptance can be challenging for people in all areas of life, and I agree
Exactly.
with that. My gosh, we work hard to get there all of our lives, and I think um, I don't know if does it ever happen 100%. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not there, Tracy. I
I don't think we
wish.
ever are.
You think you is that what you think?
Well, it's also when people say you got to love yourself, you got to love yourself. Well, how do you know we don't? It's like when you love someone else, you go, "I love you," or "I love your dogs," and you just hug it and kiss it. Well, that's not really something we naturally do to ourselves. So when people say you got to look in the mirror and say you love yourself, it's like, but do we? I mean, is there? We're never going to feel that love like we feel. We're not going to go, oh, I'm so great, like you do with your husbands or your dogs or your cats or your kids. I don't think it's human nature to feel that for ourselves. So I think when people make those comments, it confuses people. It's like, well, I don't know how. So you think you're lacking something because we're they like those good. I mean, it's one thing to hate yourself, be bad yourself, but if you're just getting through life, and I think I'm okay. It's not, I don't sit down and think, oh my god, I'm so ugly. You're. I think sometimes there's these ideas out there we're supposed to feel this, or supposed to feel. I think I'm 100% confident. It's like, I think it's too much pressure.
Mm,
I
yeah.
don't know if I explained that right.
I think so. I
I
think
don't
so.
think there's a feeling where we get to. It's like that's it. I'm 100% confident in everything. I don't think we just wake up one day and go, that's it. I got it. You just live and try to feel good, and I think you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. Um, oh, my girl Breeza Alfara, you talked about Pinky at some point
The
in your
pinky.
talk.
I
You
said
said
something about the pinky.
Pinky Move, something like that. Well, her company is called Pinky Moves, and Breeza is a stroke survivor, and that's how she believes recovery is pinky moves, like
Hmm.
baby steps. Love you, girl. I thought about you when Tracy said pinky move, and totally thought of you. And you're here, amazing. So nice to see you. Uh, she is great. Let me see, Deborah. Deborah.
Hi,
Okay,
Deborah.
I love Deborah. Deborah is the connector that I have been blessed with in my life. And she's the reason why we're having this show
Yeah.
right now. And she's introduced so many incredible people to me. I love you deeply, Deborah. Thank you so much for introducing Tracy to Della's voice. And there are so many comments. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have left us comments. And I don't want to lose track of time because we were talking about something, and I said, could you remember that? We're going to come back to that guilt.
The guilt. Yeah.
Okay. So, what can you tell us about that?
Um, I want to mention something really quick before that.
Yes.
One of them, we're talking about the cells and the muscles.
Yes.
One of the things that I teach in my courses, in my books, I say anatomy geek. If you or your therapist or your trainer or your caregiver, who's ever helping you, and you yourself, don't know which muscles or which movements do things, you're not going to get your movements back. So if you don't know which muscles, this extending the hand open, and if someone's working with you and they don't understand, you need to get every movement and exercise possible that can help extend the hand open. How are you going to extend the hand open? So everything I teach has a chapter with muscles. So you can at least see, I see I have that ab muscle. I got to stand up with it. So that's where I talk about knowledge is power. Then recently I heard somebody mention applied knowledge is power. So like, yes, applied knowledge is power. Is it if you know that there's certain muscles that make a movement and you want it back, and you learn about those muscles, or you learn what muscles are involved in a movement, that will help people get it back. So that's where I'm always talking about, if you know the muscle. So in order to get the brain cells and make new connection pathways to muscles, you need to know that movement, why you're doing it, where it's connecting. And, of course, the professionals should know this to help you, and the survivors shouldn't have to learn it on their own, but not everybody is specializing their way out there.
No.
If you just do a 1-day personal training session, you never, you learn, oh, we have quads and hamstrings, and that's not enough. You need, like if you're going to be a surgeon, you don't just become a private, basic doctor. You have to do this, then go get specialized.
Yeah.
So that helps too. But when it comes to the guilt, I remember once seeing a bumper sticker years ago. It said guilt sucks. I always remember that. Or something. One actually said guilt is not from God, and one said guilt sucks. And it stuck in my head because we can carry guilt for a lot of different things. You don't realize you're doing it. And I think, for instance, someone who's had a stroke, and then you read, 90% or 80% of strokes, I think that 80 or 90% of strokes could have been, not happened, but I don't think that's true in every case. This is true in probably some cases, but, someone can feel guilty. It's like, oh my God, I've had a stroke and this is what I did in my life. And they're carrying the guilt from that.
Oh, so you mean the lifestyle that they could have had to prevent the stroke?
Yeah. Maybe they would
Oh.
have had it anyway. Maybe they wouldn't have. I don't think you always
Mm.
know, but
Mhm.
you read the statistics. She's like, is that really true? Like all my clients, I don't think, I've had people that are like in their 40s. They weren't, out doing really unhealthy things all the time, and even if it's something you look back to, oh, maybe I shouldn't did that. The guilt really holds heavy on people. That's with a lot of things. That's with anyway. It's going to feel guilty because someone made a comment to you.
Yeah.
Like a quick example. If people's read my books or heard me teaching, they've probably heard this story. I did a survey in my Ava Stroke support group with I think it's over 5,000 people now on Facebook. And that's a small group. There's people with a lot more. So I asked them in there once, after I did the Gary book, what kind of challenge have you had to find some kind of a fitness professional, any kind of professional, to help you physically after your physical therapy end? And the comments, there was a few good ones, but most of the comments were, personal trainers don't know their muscles. Personal trainers treat us irrelevant. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand stroke. But in the stories, here's two extreme stories. One man said, I had a personal trainer. I went to a gym. The first thing the trainer said is, get on the treadmill. And the guy said, well, one, I had my stroke while I was on a treadmill. And two, I don't feel safe on a treadmill. His whole right side or left side, whichever side it was, couldn't grip and hold things. And the trainer said to him, that's just excuses. Do it anyway. And so the guy said, I wanted to hit him, but my hitting hand was my stroke affected side. So that's it. I give up. I'm never going back. That was
Mhm.
his story. On the
Mhm.
extreme other side was a man that said, I searched for trainers, and it was the 10th trainer I met. And the trainer was a paramedic that did training part-time. So he knew about strokes,
Yeah.
wasn't sure how to train them. He said, let me look into some things. So they ended up training together, and they ended up a year or so later bodybuilding together.
Mhm.
But so that man didn't give up on that first one. He went
Yeah.
to his 10th. So there's two extreme personalities that that was kind of mindset too. But sometimes if you have a brain injury, you don't have control of your mindset. You know what I mean? So there's kind of, it's just so much to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Robert touches on a very good point too about nutrition as a part of getting healthier. Definitely,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's such a big
Oh
part of
yeah.
it.
And
Absolutely.
nourishing the brain. So my brain book, I talk about this mother book, but I have a book just on the brain, a kid's one too. But so your brain needs to be hydrated. And any of us, if you're, completely dehydrated, you're going to end up in the hospital. But a lot of us go around partly dehydrated. That could affect your sleep, your fatigue, your concentration, your cognitive skills. So if you're like in your 70s and you have this going on, it's going to affect you. You're going to see the walking in the building. But if you're a stroke survivor and you already have these challenges of cognitive skills, not sleeping, which a lot of them have sleep problems after a stroke. If you're not feeding your brain with good nutrition and hydrating it properly, you have a double whammy going on now, and
Yeah.
it's going to slow down. So I had a trainer call me a couple years back, and she said, I have a client, a stroke survivor client. Whenever we start to work out, his muscles hurt. He gets pain. And my first question was, is he drinking his water? So I shared with her the story, and I said, unless your doctor tells you for some other reason you have kidney issues or something going on, or medicine, most people, you take your body weight and cut it in half. So like a 200-pound man should have 100 ounces of water. And I had a stroke survivor in Australia who does a radio show. He says when he eats wrong or does not drink his water, the next day his numb spots are more numb.
Mm-hmm.
So I told this lady these stories, and it takes a while to get hydrated. You can't just drink it in a week and be hydrated. It's like when you take hormone medicine, it takes a month or so for your body to make a balance of everything.
Yes.
So you need to drink your water really well for like a month before you start. Your body learns to balance and how much to keep, how much not to, go to the bathroom with, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so he said he promised her and me that he was going to stick to it for 30 days. So by the third week, she called me and said, I have to tell you, all the pain went away.
Mm.
And because he was living in slightly dehydration mode, which your muscles, I think your muscles are 70% water. I mean,
Yes.
our body needs hydration, and you can get it from your food, cucumbers, watermelon, those other things. In my book, I list like the percentage of some foods in it, but you got to drink your water. Caffeine and sodas dehydrate you. So if you're just drinking sodas and you're not putting any kind of nourishing fluids in you, it's gonna be, your recovery is gonna be way
Yes.
harder.
Yes. Yes. Uh, uh, Absolutely. I mean, hydration is absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about hydration and how it affects sleep. And isn't that like, and they all go hand in hand. And when you're not sleeping, you're not thinking properly. It probably affects your mood, uh,
Yeah,
right? And it probably affects the way you eat, anyways. And it just, it's all a chain. It's all
it
connected.
is.
Yeah,
It
for
is.
sure. So Deborah says, water is life. I know Deborah's always talking about hydration, and she loves talking about hydration, and I know that she can help people with that. So if someone is wondering how to get better hydrated, talk to Deborah Swayze. Okay, so Robert says the body has to get used to any nutritional changes. Many of us will have a stomach that will view a sudden intake of healthy food with great suspicion at first.
I never heard that.
Weird.
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
That could be true for some people and true not for the next. It's just your body has to break down foods. Like, what's this? Is raw vegetables? I never had a raw vegetable. It's, you just never know what.
Hmm.
You do what your body's doing. If you're struggling with something, just keep moving forward. Find your way through it. Because
Yeah.
that's why, like, you know, people go to lose weight. There's like a billion ways to do it, and everybody thinks their ways is right. But people are just, find what works for you.
Yeah. If someone is in here, in this state, let's say they've had a stroke happen, and they're feeling down on, and they're depressed, and they just don't see a way out, and they feel lonely. Um, what's the first best thing they can do for themselves?
You know what I saw help a lot, especially when most of the stroke support groups, and I think a lot of them are going back on it right now, had to switch to Zoom for their meetings. Find a support group, because when I was working with a lot of stuff with the Long Beach support group here, and I would join their meeting once a week, and there are people who literally say just coming to that meeting once a week, they looked forward to it, helped them, it inspired them. Just being with other people talking, but you had a sense of community and people when, especially when who knows what's going to be happening with COVID now, but people are isolating again for safety. There are so many meetings of things you can find on Zoom and everything. Don't be afraid of Zoom. I know people's like, oh, I just don't do the Zoom thing. It's like, you know what? Just do it. When Zoom hit, when COVID hit, I didn't welcome it at all, but I welcomed the time off work because within like a week or so, my stepfather was diagnosed with bone cancer. So I was able to be there with him. And then he passed.
Sorry
Sorry.
about that.
And then about 3 weeks after he passed, my father went in the hospital. And he ended up passing. And then a while later, my dog passed. It's been really rough. But when my father passed, I was in Oregon. He was in Long Beach, Maryland, California. No visitors. I can't travel with the COVID. The airlines were just shutting down things. I couldn't drive it myself. Me and my mom are getting over my stepfather in Oregon. It was just so much going on that they would have an iPad in the hospital, and I'd visit them through the iPad. One thing we got to see each other at mask on, which is nice, because so many people in their last times of life only saw people in masks.
Yeah.
I was with my father via Zoom when he passed away. So I've written Zoom letters and thanked him. If I was afraid of Zoom, I would have missed all that.
Yeah.
When he was in ICU the last couple of weeks and he was just out, they would put the iPad in there for me, and I would sit at my computer like this. My dog would be behind me. He's not here anymore. My dad liked to hear the dog howl, so we would howl. He was completely out. I'd play his favorite music. And I know at some level he knew we did that. All that would have been gone if it wasn't if I had a fear of Zoom or getting on these. So if you're don't want to be out, or you can't be about, or you don't have people with you, see if you can find some community online, and don't be afraid of it, because nobody cares what you look like. I have people show up in Zoom pajamas. They don't really care. Just human contact.
Yeah.
If this is the best human contact you can get right now, we need it. We need it in our souls, because you just need it. So that would be one thing I encourage people to do, because I do know when I've told people I've been through some very lonely times, people I tell I'm lonely, it makes them go the other way. It doesn't click with most people. Oh, she's lonely. Let's gather to her. I think they think it's a disease they're going to catch or something. They see it like, oh, well, if you were confident, you wouldn't be lonely. It's like, it has nothing to do with it. People need people, and we need love or some kind of connection. And Zoom these things are easy. You just log in, you're on.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Huge.
on the topic of support groups, it's so important to find a group that understands you, that have themselves walked in those shoes, are not just talking out of air. It's not lip service. It's really people who understand what it's like to go through what you're going through. And so, yeah, I myself belong to many support groups for so many different reasons, and I think that they're very helpful. You hear amazing experiences from other people, things that have worked for them that you haven't thought of trying, and it might just make that bit of a difference.
And you
So,
may find a lifetime friend, or
yeah.
they might say, hey, next week we're going to have wine and life and thing together. Or, so I know two strokes. There's a stroke support group in Oregon,
Mhm.
is very good. And I know the stroke support group in Long Beach. These two people do them on Zoom. And when they switched to Zoom, they started having survivors from all out of the world too. And I really think those two they show up online when you look for them. So if I can give you those links to share them
Oh,
later,
amazing. Yes.
because they would welcome them in. And they actually, the Long Beach one has one day they meet with the stroke survivors. They also have a day where they meet just the caregivers.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so the
Amazing.
wives or spouses, sisters, brother,
Woo.
whatever your person is who's with you. Yeah.
That's a totally different talk on its own, Tracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean, support system for survivors, just on its own, an amazing.
Plus, a lot of stroke survivors have a level, they may not know it, not all of them, but they have it's trauma.
Yeah.
It's one day you're traumatized. They have post-traumatic stress. Their caregivers have a level of post-traumatic stress. COVID brought on post-traumatic stress for a lot of people. There's so, and so be kind to yourselves. Know that you may be going through things.
Yeah.
You don't have to always have to have a diagnosis or a title or say I have this, but just kind of know, because like the man on the treadmill, he will probably always panic when he goes on treadmill. He had a stroke on it.
Yeah.
It's natural to have or you're afraid you're going to have another stroke, or your caregivers. Oh my God, is that going to happen to me? It's so natural to have not a fear, like, oh my God, we're irrational, but to have these fears, we're human.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important to, like you said, yeah, you're going to feel those feelings, validate those feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's first you have to, it's like everything goes back to that awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being aware of your feelings is so important, and validating them, and then looking for solutions.
And then also, now this is a lesson in life I probably have never learned completely, because I just want to trust everyone and talk to people. I got to realize that, I know I'm going through this, but that friend and that person, they're not someone you can talk to about it.
Mhm.
Only talk about the ones you know you can, because then you feel bad.
Yep.
Because it's just, but in life, you do what you have around you sometimes. It's like, why do I even bother thinking this person's going to understand this? They never will. Not everyone's going to understand it. And I think that's been my real hard struggle. Because I'm like, well, don't they want to understand? I mean, we grow up seeing all these movies where, the Disney movies and things where the end of the movie, the bad people started thinking right, and everybody started behaving properly. Well, yeah, that's not life.
You're right, Tracy. I gotta admit too, I live in a fantasy world where everybody loves everybody and everybody wants to help everybody. And unfortunately, sometimes that's not true, but
You want it to be so
I
badly,
want it.
though.
I
Well, I
want it
think we
to.
all do. Life would be so much easier.
Yeah, I want it to be true.
Me too.
I want to believe that we're all intrinsically good people, and we have good hearts, and we want to do what's right. And so, um, I don't know, believing that somehow feels better for me.
Well, I want to believe that too, but I've also had it's came back, and because you have people, you have bullies, you have people jealousy, you have people that just have a mindset like, oh, well, I'm just gonna take from that person. So we have to want to feel like you feel, because I want that all the time. But then we also have to kind of put up that boundary with the certain
Yeah,
people, because
yeah,
you don't want to. They kind of force it on us.
yeah.
If you don't
Mm,
have you don't always have a route to get away from. Maybe someone you always work with. It may be someone in your family. Maybe someone you just can't move away from that situation. It's
mhm.
just kind of you can't help it. And it doesn't mean you're an idiot or you're not thinking. It's just there's just sometimes, wow,
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
can't quit a job to get rid of that. Get away from that coworker who's pest. You just kind of, okay, don't let him get to me today. Don't let him. You just kind of you work through it.
And boundaries. You talked about boundaries. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're so important. Again, another talk. That
Another
has
talk,
to
yeah.
be that has to be another talk. Tracy, you can be reached on your website, and I have the website right here, and it's tracymarkley.com, and where applied knowledge is power. That is just super,
Yeah.
super motto. I really, really love that. And so I want to give you a couple of more minutes. First of all, Tracy, I want to thank you for sponsoring Dela's Voice today. I really, really appreciate that. And I want to give you a few more minutes to finish off this talk, wrap it up, yeah, give people something to leave with. Not that you haven't already, but
My thing, I would say, try to be kind to yourself and be kind to others. It's really good for our brains when we get to be kind. It's nice when we get kindness back. But be kind to yourself. Trying to be so hard on yourselves, we really beat ourselves up. We're like, just try to be kind. That's my biggest thing to say to people. Be kind. Um, learn things. If there's something you need help with, if there's a possible way for you to learn them, gain knowledge about it, because each time you take a little step towards something, it sometimes open a door over here. Like you may, like the person, maybe I'm going to join a support group, but it may just seem like you're doing one thing, but it may open a door to all these other things that branch out, because you can't do them all at once. And sometimes you have to take that little step before you go to here. So like we go back to the pinky. So you have the big ulnar nerve, and a lot of times the recovery of your pinky starts moving because it comes out through here. That's kind of a sign that the whole hand may be coming back. So the nerve. So getting a little movement back, I always tell most survivors, is huge. So don't think, oh, well, only this happened. That's huge. That means this is communicating down to here, which means it's going to start, let's work on the hand now. So don't look at each tiny step like it's just, doesn't mean anything. It's tiny. It's the tiny step that leads you to big stuff. So try not to judge your recovery or your tiny steps as little things. Don't belittle it. See it as keep going.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Miracles always happening in your body. And that's what you're saying, that it is, just notice the little things, and that's the start of seeing big changes. It doesn't happen all at once. Amazing. Tracy, I so appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
I'm grateful to have met you. And I've been so blessed by everything I've heard from you today. I've learned so much. And I'm sure that other people have too. I hope.
I hope so too.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. And, if you heard this talk today and thought, oh, I've learned a few things, please share this with other people so that they can also hear this. You never know that one person that needs to hear something that was said today that might make a big, huge difference in their life. So thank you so much. For everyone who's been watching and have commented, I want to thank you. My deepest gratitude for you being supportive of Dela's Voice Talk Show, where we hope to bring information, inspiration, and motivation for wellness, recovery, and change. Tracy, once again, thank you very much for being here today. And until next time, this was Dela's Voice, sparking your soul. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show is brought to you by Tracy Markley. Applied knowledge is power.